Okay, so I'm back again. Today is Saturday, which is August the 27th. And this is my podcast as well as my YouTube channel, Spiritual Sense. And so I'm going to briefly go into the topic for today. Now, I'm going to speak about altars, altars. Now, in this podcast as well as YouTube channel, I speak about things regarding the paranormal, occult, and supernatural. And I also incorporated daily tarot card reading into the podcast as well, which I've already recorded for today. Altars. What is an altar? What is an altar? So it mentions the table in a Christian church at which the bread and wine are consecrated in communion services. It also mentions it's a table of flat topped block used as the focus for a religious ritual, especially for making sacrifices or offerings to a deity. Okay, so that's basically what an altar is. What does the Bible say about an altar? There are over 400 references to altars in the Bible. The word altar is first used in Genesis 8:20 when Noah built an altar to the Lord after leaving the ark. It mentions, however, the ideas were present as early as Genesis 4:3-4, when Cain and Abel brought their sacrifices to the Lord. So, what is the importance of an altar? Altars are a memorial of the places where God meets us. Altars represent the occasion and place where we have had a personal encounter with God. We may not always be able to make a physical altar, but there can be one established in our hearts. When we celebrate communion, we are celebrating the greatest altar of all, the cross of Calvary. So you can as I mentioned, many people may feel as though you cannot have a relationship with God unless you go to church and fellowship and things of the sort. And that is true in certain aspects in life when you're dealing with certain things. You have to fellowship, you have to integrate and socialize and things of that nature, but you can have a relationship with God, your own personal relationship with God. I think that is most important than all, because when you begin to get out and integrate and socialize and things of the sort, you will begin to know what is God and what is not God. And in a sense, it's all God, but you will get an inclination as to, is this is a test or what have you, meaning if this is wrong or right, if this is truth versus not truth, if this is black versus white. So you'll be able to understand contrast. So if you develop your own relationship with God, you will know when everything is of him, but you would know when, I just allowed that to happen, so to speak, versus what is truly of me and from me. Because I do believe there's a supreme being of all being called God. I do feel as though there are other gods and goddesses as well. And essentially they have to go through his stamp of approval. Okay. He will use whom he will, whom he may to coincide with what is of him. So without stepping on anybody's shoes and causing any confusion and ruckish, I have an altar that I set up, and I had began to do some research before I forefront of my platform and doing the podcast with Spiritual Sense as well as the YouTube channel. However, I have a family member who was already doing this way before I began to do some research. Okay. So a lot of the things that are presenting right now was placed within me way years prior to, and it's just coming to the forefront now. I simply took a wooden desk that I have and I draped it with some with the covering, and I have different candles, white candles particularly, on there, and I will burn at certain times, those candles, not all the time. I have incense on there. I have a couple of crystal balls, a couple of little remnants on there. I have some figurines on there, and I have a shot glass on there that was provided by a family member. And oftentimes when I go and I want to pay homage to whichever ritual, I may offer water, or I may offer a little bit of alcohol or whatever the case may be in regards to that. When you do that, may seem as though it's being foolish. What is the significance in doing this? What is the purpose in doing that? Like, why are you doing that? It will become apparent to you apart from on a bigger scale as to why you are doing these things. God will make that apparent to you as such. And this is what the purpose of setting up the things that are on your altar are, because He's going to engage you to give you understanding as to what that is. Simply what that is. Okay. So, when you get your altar, you make it your own. You make it your own. As I mentioned, I have the different figurines on there, and I do profess in the future of putting Yamaya. I want to get a figurine for Yamaya and place it on the altar. A representation of Mott. Now, Mott, Orisha, getting back to the Orishas, because these are things that you can place on your altar. You get off into different Orishas and studying different Egyptian gods and goddesses, or it could be Greek or Roman, or whomever you took it to be your fancy. Maat, M-A-A-T, is an Egyptian deity. Ancient Egyptian concepts of truth, balance, order, harmony, law, morality, and justice. It was a goddess who personified these concepts and regulated the stars, seasons, and actions of mortals and deities. So that's basically what that is. It's a balance of truth. These things has been presented to me some years ago, and I was aware and conscientious of them, but I didn't choose to entertain the thought until I decided to forefront a lot of my spiritual sense podcast. So this is not me just getting on here just making some up. This is some things that was in me as a young girl. So this is not something I just up one day and decided to do. It's just something that I decided to expand on and present out so people will understand that. I'm not going to impose anything on anybody. It's at your discretion. But there are figurines that you can purchase to put on there to give you some inclination as to what is being conveyed. Bastet. Bastet is a goddess of ancient Egyptian religion worship as early as the second dynasty is what it has indicated here. So I mentioned before when and it's a cat-headed deity. When I began to forefront and go into particular deities and things of that sort, I feel as though Bastet and representation of the cat. As a lot of people who may know, I'm not particular about cats. Like, I really don't like cats. But from my understanding, cats have a sensibility and similar to children to where they can sense when something is malevolent. Like when something doesn't like them, they're sensitive to those energies. They're sensitive to spirituality and spirit forces. They are very sensitive to it. And I think, in essence, as they said, the cat chased the rat or the snake or whatever the case may be. This particular deity will let you know who is telling. She would give you a reference to who you can trust and not trust, essentially. That's basically what that is. The next deity that I favor, I mentioned about Yamaya, I mentioned about Mot, I mentioned about Bastet. Now we're going to do Osiris. You could go, if you are interested in looking up these deities. I mean, you have figurines. These are things. I mean, I'm going over their riches, but there are figurines out there that you can purchase in regards to these different things. Osiris, god of fertility, agriculture, the afterlife, the dead, resurrection, life, vegetation in ancient Egyptian religion. So it's a deity that oversees agriculture, giving you some inclination as to, if you're of how to do with your crops and watering of your crops and what is conducive for your crop and things of that nature. Is also the afterlife and dead and resurrection. How are you able to bring life back to your crops and restoration, and how you can have abundance in terms of your fruits and things of nature and as such. So that's basically what Osiris is. They able to oversee things and how you could bring things back to life, put life and purpose back into a situation. Now another deity that you may be interested in is Shango. And Shango is over the elements. It's and if you are someone that's looking to get off into possibly farmland or agriculture and stuff like that, you probably can pair your Maya, Shango, and Osiris all together. Shango is the deity, and I want to say Shango is over uh the elements. But give me just a moment. Let me people voice like thunder and a mouth that spewed fire when it spoke. And so I do know from previous looking up, it says the natural forces associated with Shango are fire and lightning. So in other words, I mean, it's going to give you, it's going to let you know. I guess it would be a power source. Shango is a power source to let you know who truly has power, like who is able to have power. You compare Shango, Yamaya, as well as Osiris together if you are wanting to know who truly has the voice of God, like who has been through the storm to be able to recognize, like who can you trust? You got some people that talk, but who really can have power behind their words that they speak, so to speak. So Shango will be a representation to give you clarity and insight as to who speaks the truth, who voice holds power. That's what Shango will be a representation of. We also have a deity that you can possibly look up to put on your altar, and that is Oshun, and which is a female goddess deity. So she is a river Orisha, associated with water, purity, fertility, love, and sensuality. She is considered one of the most powerful of all Orishas. And she possesses human attributes like vanity, jealousy, and spite. So it mentions that, if you put this deity up here and you pay homage to this deity, someone that in a sense is without offending the Yoruba people and those who may be into Yoruba religions, in essence, it could be a representation of similar to like a Jezebel spirit. Like you will begin to know when someone can bring strife to a situation, is what I'm gaining for that. So if you begin to place this particular figurine of a Shun on your altar, then if you have questions in regards to the heart of someone, it will coincide with that. It should coincide with that. If you take note of how life works, it should coincide with that, because from what I gather from that, it seems as though she's a representation of a Jezebel spirit. A Jezebel spirit doesn't necessarily have to be uh, male or female. It could be male as well. And so you would know what you know, what you know, what you know. So just take note of certain things. Feng Shui is real. It will all coincide. People sit back and say that you're crazy, you know what you're talking about. No, 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 no. You would know. God will put it in alignment to where you would know. Plain and simple. Okay. So that is the information that I have available here on in regards to altars. I mean, let me just see if I'm able to gather some more information as to things that you can place on your altar. I know candles will be one, herbs and incenses will be another one, but let me see if I'm able to pull up some more information. Okay, so you may want to, of course, ancestor altar cloth. You may want to place a cloth, some type of, it could be a cloth that could be very dear to you, or you may choose to go out and buy a cloth. Many people may put pictures on their altars. I mean, it's all in what you want to do. What is an ancestor altar? It's a sacred place, a place of coexistence between the living and the dead, spanning thousands of years across many traditions. People have called upon our ancestors for guidance, protection, and spiritual empowerment. Um, so you want to keep your altar somewhere where it cannot be disturbed. How to set up an altar for your ancestors? Clean the space, both physically and energetically. So, by way of some incense, like when I do with mines, I may, put my smudge and sage. I may smudge. I may get some herbs and put it on there to clear the space out. You can use incense as well, or all of that. Place a white altar cloth. I do have a white altar cloth on there. It says cast a circle, invoke the elements, or call the quarters. So we're going to click on this here when it says cast a circle. Casting a circle is one of the fundamental skills of witches. Before you begin practicing magic, it is important to know how to cast a circle for a spell. It is possible to cast a circle without tools. What is a magical circle? A circle is a temporary space for practicing magic or doing a ritual, according to what they have listed here. The circle defines the ritual area, holds in personal power, shuts out distracted energies, and creates the proper atmosphere for the rites. So the word circle, it is not really accurate according to this, but it's sphere of energy. There's a sphere of energy, and so it's basically clearing your space to where you are able to what, get all that away from you. You can actually do that. I mean, there's ways to where you can prevent people from infiltrating into your space. There's a such thing as that. This is apart from someone going and physically putting their hands on it. I mean, you can also do it that way as well, but I'm talking about where many people are distracted from it, like don't even acknowledge it, so to speak. I don't believe in doing anything, any type of magic that would cause someone to manipulate. Catch my drift? Like, I don't believe in doing something that would cause somebody to go do harm to someone else. Although oftentimes I may get mad and say what I need to go do, but I believe in distracting. Like, okay, just let's block this energy so it can be distracted on somewhere else. That's what I believe in. Okay. So we're going to get back to where, okay. So, and I've clicked over to too fast to where it clicked it off. So, okay. So in other words, you want to get a table, choose your theme. It could be an altar in reference to your ancestors. It could be a combination. If you want a certain deity, patron, saint, or guardian angel, it says obtain the four elements, acquire four items representing the four elements: fire, water, air, and earth. So you want to put all of these things in. If you're using candles, that will be the representation of what? Fire. I have water there. Air, do you want to put a fan there? Possibly. Earth, rocks. I have crystals there. Let's see. Consecrate sacred tools. Uh, so if you want to add, some consecrated swords, a ritual cup, a goblet, a blade. If you want to place some books on there, in regards to your altar, you may want to put some figurines. I got figurines on there as well. Holy water in mention, or water gathered from a sacred river, will be helpful as well to place on your altar. It got to be something that is represents earth, which rainwater will be just as fine as well. But it mentions sacred rivers and lakes. For air, you can use feather. Earth, you can use stone, sand, or crystals. Align to the four directions. Align the four elements, elemental totems with the four directions. You can use your intuition or adopt a traditional method, but it mentions that there's no official right or wrong way to align the elements with the direction. A common alignment is to place fire in the east for the rising sun, water in the south, earth in the west, and air in the north. So that's basically how you can align your altar. Placing books on there as well would help. You know, if you have some books that you would like to place on your altar, if you are somebody that's into anointing oils or different oils for spiritual practices, that will be beneficial to place on there. And that's one thing I don't have on my altar, but I can gather it. Florida water, you can put some Florida water on your oil. Altar as well, and it's just as beneficial. Okay, so these things do work, and you know they do work. It's very very powerful. They do work. Um, in terms of helping with your conquest on your spiritual, paying homage to your ancestors and spirit guides. So the sword is very beneficial for that. Okay. So I am going to conclude this episode on spiritual sense, speaking on altars and how to make an altar and how you can use an altar to help with your spiritual journey and protection. Okay. So if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you are more than welcome to comment below. Until then, you have a safe and wonderful day. Good day.